Thank you, Mark. Get set. It's time for the Addict to Athlete podcast. Everybody out there, Coach Blu Robinson here. I want to thank you all for downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. We've had a huge increase in numbers recently, so thank you. If you're new here, jump onto our website, addicttoathlete.org. You'll find all kinds of information on recovery resources, tools, and tips with a lot of free content to help you get yourself started at that starting line of recovery. I want to have you guys all turn your attention to our website too, with the Project ELF situation we got going on for Christmas right now, but also ways that you can serve your community and give back to the community you once took from. Athletes, I'm excited today. We have a great guest and I'm excited to get him on here. And after some technical difficulties, we went old school back to the old Zoom account. But this is Brandon Turner, who is a professional skater, but also a man of my own heart who has shifted gears and turned the mess into the message by allowing his life and his experiences of professional skating, substance abuse, and history be turned into the erase and replace philosophy with the guys he works with in recovery. Brandon, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to get to know more about your story, about your history, and especially what you're doing now. Kind of the heart's in the same kind of rhythm where you're helping people overcome addiction by giving them a different kind of tool and an outlet to recovery. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me. Appreciate you. I know we had some difficulties, but we on now. So
absolutely, man. We push through the adversity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what we do, right? As addicts or what have you, you just perseverance,
Yeah, absolutely. So Brandon, tell the listeners, I know there's a lot that will know who you are, but tell the listeners a little bit about you. I mean, you started getting on skateboards and kind of doing some wacky stuff when you were really young. And so we call our 18-year and younger crew the minor league. So literally you were a 6-year-old minor leaguer jumping on this board with wheels, and that turned into a platform that really kind of how'd you start rolling through life, if that's a metaphor we can use. Tell us a little bit about your background, and we'll get into some of the addiction stuff and why you wanted to turn your mess into a very powerful message.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's, Brandon Turner. I grew up in San Diego. My dad was in the military, so he got stationed in Japan shortly after the Gulf War. I fell in love with the Japanese culture, learned Japanese, played sports, basketball, soccer, other sports and stuff. But skateboarding was always my heart. I got on a skateboard from a surfer who lived in my neighborhood at like 2 years old, who first put me on a board. So started taking skateboarding seriously in Japan, got good, moved back to the States when I was like 12, 13 years old. And right away I got sponsored at 13 and was on a major company, started traveling the world and touring. By 15, I was on like the top #1 skate company. And then we won awards and everything. And all the traveling and the rock star lifestyle and trying to just stay married to the streets and maybe people who didn't have my best interests or myself as well. And that led into some trouble, DUIs, drug charges, gun charges, everything you can think of, public intoxication, fighting, everything that comes with, that lifestyle, restrictions. Eventually ended up to prison, and I did some time. I got sentenced 3 years with half, and and I was real hard-headed because people know if you're a skateboarder or an athlete, you just keep trying and trying until you succeed, and especially if you don't give up. So I was the same way when it came to my partying in the streets. So it started to click a little after prison and stuff. And then eventually I followed the suggestions. I was familiar with AA and stuff and everything, but I wasn't taken to it. I thought I was different, and eventually ended up, realizing that, hey, maybe I don't need to be drinking because everything that's happened bad in my life, somehow the alcohol is there.
Like a common denominator, huh? Like,
but I don't want to believe it. I want to believe it's because of this, that, or the other, or this went wrong. But I finally got out of my denial and realized that, I don't need to drink. It started affecting me physically, like, waking up, tremors, all that. And then, I did other drugs too and stuff, but alcohol was my my drug of choice,
Yeah.
and I loved it. And then I eventually took some suggestions, like, got a sponsor and stuff, and then realized like what I was really missing. And that was the real game,
Mm-hmm.
the real power of the mind, that real, that void that I thought I was missing, I ended up finding within. And
Dang.
spiritual awakenings and all that, which I thought was bullshit too.
Yeah.
So, people would tell me like, oh, the result of these steps, you will have a spiritual awakening. And I'm just like, that might be for you, but I am the spiritual awakening,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You can
with
always
all that,
try to
with
get
all
out.
that ego and other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, eventually I was like, wow, and then I realized my purpose was, with everything I've been through and all the experiences I've had traveling and different people in the world and all the trouble I've been into and really in the streets and with the track record I have,
Yeah.
I realized that I can give back. The whole reason why God, the universe, whatever have you, put me through this is to have the experience to be able to relate people and to help people
Mm-hmm.
who may or may not be going through the same things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh
now I
man.
have now I have a substance abuse facility called Healthy Life Recovery that I
Mhm.
partnered with, and we have a mental health facility as well, primary. And I wanted to do something different because I always looked at rehabilitation or rehabs as
Mhm.
like a halfway house to jail, and
Yeah.
just even now, just with the stigma of like a rehab just sounds like jail. You know
Yeah, it
what I mean?
does.
And I was like, and I've been to one once when I got locked up one time. And the only way I was able to get out was by going to a rehab early, and I
Mhm.
went and I got some good stuff into it, but it didn't stick for me. It didn't relate. I thought I wasn't like these people. Like, I
Yeah.
was like, you're a bum. I'm not,
Yeah.
but I just had this judgment of like separation. I didn't see it. So I had in my mind, you know what? I want to create something that's like amazing, something that is like empowering. Like, I want to create something that you can not only get the tools that you need to not use or whatever, but I want to make it fun. I want to have a skate program, a surf program, yoga, Pilates, everybody have a gym membership, and make it like active. And every person who comes to my program, I ask them like, yo, what do you want to be? What is it where you want to be? And
Yeah.
with our case management and everything,
Yeah.
what I do basically is help people. I use all my resources to get my people and our clients to get to where they want to get to.
Oh man.
So that's where I'm at now.
Beautiful. Brandon, that is the coolest thing, man. I love it when I find people out there in the world that have the same kind of rhythm in the heartbeat. And you're echoing everything that Addict to Athlete is as well. It's about doing something different. Now, here's the thing, metaphorically, right? Here you are, this professional skater. You've got your surfing background. You got all this stuff. To me, what you were just saying is that all that requires balance, right? I mean, you got to have decent balance, I would imagine, to stay on a board, in the water or on the land. You got to have balance in order to maintain your recovery out here in the world, in the field that is your life. Tell me a little bit about that, man. How did balance start to get you to a spot where you realized you weren't falling as frequently? And when you did fall, you were doing it with grace instead of just hitting hard. Like, tell me a little bit about that, I guess, metaphor in recovery and, in
You
sport.
know, through recovery is part of it. When I did my steps and everything, that was just the beginning of everything. Like, kept reading and studying, and I just like got more addicted to getting like the knowledge. But with you, what you're saying with like balance and stuff and everything, like meditation is huge. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Meditation is really huge, and I believe that everything exists in the mind before you can bring it into your reality.
Yeah.
And that's the secret space for, out of in a fourth dimensional setting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, man.
if you can see it in your mind, then you can make it happen in real life.
All right.
And
Well, with that, then how many guys have you worked with that have wanted to do some of the things that you've done and maybe get out there and try something new, but their mind's telling them it's not possible. Like, not for me. It would be for you, but not for me. Right. It's that mindset of like, well, that might have worked for you, but to me, I don't have the balance. I don't have this ability to do what you've done. How do you help get them out of their mind to start focusing on what they're doing instead of what they can't do?
Because it could be on a different frequency. Like people see things like so cut and dry, like, okay, maybe, okay, I could see if you're like 45 years old and then you want to pick up skateboarding now and be a professional skateboarder. It's possible. Anything's possible, but it's going to take a lot of discipline. It's going to take a lot of everything. Like you're going to have to be eating perfectly. You better have a trainer. You better have every single resource possible. Anything is possible. It's just, there's a template for everything. And it's just like, you have to be willing to do the work for it.
Absolutely. So
And
here's the thing that listeners, I want you to pay attention to. What he's telling you is that this isn't just a jump on the board and go. It's you've got to discipline yourself, right? I mean, brother, it sounds like to me that a lot of the stuff that you did, even early on, it kind of came easy because you got the flow of things, but it wasn't always easy, was it? I mean, there was still times you were challenged, you like you said, you fell, but like you got back up. How was that like the recovery? I mean, if we throw in the towel the first bump we have in the road, we're not going to make it very far, are we? Like, how do you keep that mindset and teach these folks that you're working with that if you're going to fall, you got to get back up?
yeah, it's just that's the lesson in life, and just how I put in skateboarding. It's not like if you're gonna fall or when you're gonna fall, you're gonna fall. It's just how you pick yourself back up, because that's where the most valuable lesson lies. Because you have to fall. You got to think of the most successful people in the world. They've failed so many times before they got it right. Failure is part of the success. Nobody just succeeds first go or even second go. Like anybody who's successful in business and athleticism or anything in life knows that the reason why they're successful is because they failed. It's not because of the success that they're successful. It's because of the failure.
Absolutely, man. And listeners, please take that to consideration. So the question I have for you then is while your career is kind of up and coming and you're going through tons of life experiences, man, you're having some success, you're having some failures, you're skating, you're doing all this stuff, and alcohol and substance use, it's very much a part of it. What is the difference and how hard was it doing those things sober versus when you were doing those things using? Because sometimes people don't understand. We use this philosophy on the Team Addict athlete called erase and replace. So if you're going to erase the addiction, you've got to replace it with something of greater value. But you
Absolutely.
Still continuing to do that after the fact and still finding like the passion, the love, the joy within it, and not using it as a gateway to remember all the negative stuff that come with it. How did you take something that was so profound for you, skating, all this stuff, even after prison and coming back and getting back on the board? I'm so curious, like how you did that and not fall backwards, but actually move forward.
Well, because of my passion and my love for skateboarding, that was always there. And like, yeah, like when I was like drinking and partying and everything, that was a big part of my identity, So it was, you asked how, with difficulty, because even after a year sober, I still didn't feel like right. Something was like, I'm like, and then I get into the entitlement. Like I've been a year sober. I should have this. This should be this way and all that. But that's just like all ego. And what do we say? And, hey, your ego is not your amigo. You just gotta,
I love it.
You just gotta know that. And, but in prison, what I was doing is like at the lowest place on earth and doing what I was doing. I was stretching, I was visualizing, skating. I was like doing the stretches I needed to do that I knew that I would need to skate, because I knew there's limited beliefs. I'm like, every skater that's been to prison or whatever has, for this extensive amount of time, has like fallen off, and never came back. So that was big in my mind, but I'm like, no, I know I can do it as long as I stay in shape. I'm looking at this as a break. Like this is like time to get my mind strong, time to study, time to stretch and get strong. And so I just like I just changed my mind state of thinking like this is school. This is like a boot camp right now for my mind, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
so
so
when I got out, that's how.
that is amazing. That is amazing. Listeners, and I need you to pay particular attention to what Brandon's talking about. It's not a fast process. There are things that fall into place, and you're going to feel weak after even a year, maybe even 2 years. But the goal here is that you're moving forward. You're not staying idle. So tell me about the people and the things around you that were like, maybe a little bit hesitant, like, man, he's changing. He's leaving all of this other stuff behind. Did you find some people that were kind of like, kind of giving you the shoulder versus the ones that embraced you because of like, you used to be down for the cause, man. Now you're this whole
Yeah.
different person. Was that challenging for you?
It was difficult because I got a lot of love for people who are still in the streets, still doing their
Yeah.
thing and doing stuff that I don't agree with, and I don't judge them. But it was really hard because some of my really good friends, I knew, like I knew that you are who you hang around with. So
Yeah.
it's what you surround yourself with. So I had to really learn the hard lesson of to love from afar and to change like my people, places, and things,
Mm-hmm.
and just like learn new stuff and really like they say it's a selfish program. I just had to like do what was best for me and be like, you know what, I can't be doing this, hanging around with these people because it's a liability for myself and I know myself,
Oh,
until
Brandon.
I can have the power to be around anything. So for a while I had to stay away and just work on myself.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Hmm.
That to me is one of the most challenging things in recovery is
Hmm.
needing to move forward at the same time wanting those friends, those relationships to come with you, but you can't force them. You can't drag them along with you. Hopefully there'll be some inspiration, or when it's time for them, when the time is right, then they'll go. But that's don't you think it's one of the hardest things is leaving some of those behind that if you stay, they'll consume you. That's a challenging thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so cliche, but we're all guilty of it. I mean, it's just part of our human nature that misery loves company. So if two people are doing bad and feeling bad about themselves and they want to drown themselves and just like bring themselves down, like that's where you're going to be. And you
Mm-hmm.
want to surround yourself that with people who want to empower you than people that you don't, that who you didn't want to hear about, and that you're on the fence about, who will tell you the truth, and those people who you really don't want to be around, who kind of give you the business of what you need to do, who will kind of check you and be like, hey man, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. Like the honest people, the ones that will be willing to sacrifice the relationship with you because they're like, you need to hear this.
Yeah, exactly. And that takes courage too, because
Oh yeah.
I still go through things too, and it's what it's called is boundaries, man. And that's a
Hmm.
huge thing to like get your boundaries down, and
Yeah.
an easy thing for me was just like, like your loved one, say a family member or whatever, a really easy one for me. It's just be like, hey, if any situation you wouldn't have your mom at with you, then if you couldn't have your mom there, then you don't belong there,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
That makes that is a great rule of thumb, you guys. Take that. If what you're doing, if you wouldn't be comfortable having mom sitting next to you, you probably shouldn't be there. That's genius, man. Something as
Yeah.
simple as that we can completely like ignore. I love that mindset. So, brother,
Hmm.
the question that I have for you too then is 3 years in prison. That is not an easy thing for someone that I would believe in your heart of hearts truly yearns to be free. I mean, you contrast the times you were just on the board, you're out there in the ocean, ready to hit the next wave coming in, the freedom that's out there versus the confinement of prison. Dude, that had to have been hell for you. Honest to goodness. I mean, knowing that whatever got you there was sucked, but all in the same breath, it's like, how hard was it for you to truly understand the freedom of being out there, early morning on the ocean, just ready to go versus waking up in the cell? That had to be one hell of a contrast.
Yeah, man, it just gave me the lessons, like the lessons on lessons on lessons of like life that, like you can get anything you want, like in the world, money, whatever you have, but like there's nothing more valuable than your freedom, because your freedom can be taken away.
Mhm.
And anyone who thinks that it can't happen to them, like, believe it. The world's always changing. Anything can happen. Like, your freedom can be taken away. So the littlest things in the world, as far as like a tree or a plant, when you haven't seen that for months, you realize like how we are really connected to this like planet and everything, and that we're like living organisms, because you just start like something starts going away from you without that. I remember being in a cell for like 2 months in solitary confinement, not seeing any like life or anything, and sitting there thinking like, I just want to see a bird or a plant or anything.
Wow.
So it's the little things in life, like I just realized like your freedom is worth everything, because it really could get taken away at any time.
Man, that mind, that mental picture it'd be hard for most of us to even comprehend. And so
Mhm.
truly appreciate what you've got. So the thing is, it was
Thank you.
when that time was done, how, what was it like when you got that freedom back? To a degree, obviously, I'm sure they still had the thumb on you, but not so to speak. Like, what was the first time you remember getting back on the board? Maybe what did it feel like to put your feet back in those positions and to push off that first time? I think we forget that when something so precious and valuable is taken away, that those experiences of reintroducing yourself to them, they're pretty life-changing. I mean, that it may not have been that kind of a strong epiphany to you, but I'm always curious about when you re-engaged and what brought you the most joy. What was that like to have it again?
Just the freedom, like not even doing tricks or competing or trying to be this good or what I thought I wanted to get out of it. It was just like when I went to a skate park and met with a friend, and I just like pushed on the board, and I'm just like, man, this is like really freedom. Like I was just standing on the
Oh,
board, and I'm like, I'm flying.
yeah,
Like
dude.
this is like what I said is everything is a perception. Like I might as well have had wings, because that's how I felt.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And
When something so precious gets taken away from you, you appreciate it when you get it back, and probably held it a little bit close, probably more so than
that
you had,
that's
right?
that's an understatement.
Yeah.
That feeling can't be created. Like that feeling,
Mm.
and some people might not be able to relate. I'm going to tell you one thing: you can watch as many shows you want, prison movies or reality shows.
Mhm.
There's nothing in the world that can make you feel how it actually feels to have your freedom taken away
Mm.
in real time, because you realize that time is perception too.
Mhm.
You're having fun. Have you ever been in a time where you're with someone, a loved one or whatever, and you guys are having fun, and it seems like time goes by like that, right?
Yeah.
Have
Mhm.
you ever been bored or in court or something, or and time goes by like so slow? So really,
Mm.
the perception of time is in your mind, and when you're in that, and when you have your freedom taken away and you have nothing, and you're just in around concrete walls, you really have to learn how to
Yeah, man.
do the time and not let the time do you.
No joke. I love that perception of the mind that you're talking about. And listeners, this is the key principle in recovery too, is even that concept and perception of pain. Brother, I've read stories about you and things that have happened to you, from accidents to like the time you were running away from the police and jumped off a bridge and broke your leg. Those things really hurt. They had to have. But
Yeah.
compare that to the pain that it felt when you heard the words guilty and gavel on there, and then like three, prison. Like that had to hurt too. So I think sometimes in addiction, we have a misconception on what pain truly is, right? Because there's
Absolutely.
so many mechanisms that can hurt. You've suffered both physical, emotional, spiritual. Um, how are you sitting here talking to me and these athletes today, these people in recovery, saying it's going to hurt, but what follows that?
As long as you like keep both your feet on the ground and not get too much in your head and just get out of like the me. And I would just say, once you start thinking like about me, and what's going on with me and how I'm feeling and and what I need to be doing, this, like, pick up the phone and call somebody else and see how they're doing. That's the power of recovery, is in helping somebody else.
Yeah, man. And that helps heal all the stuff that's happened to you. The one thing that I saw that I was really kind of like blown away by was that perception of when you were younger and you jumped off the bridge trying to avoid the curfew ticket, which I'm sure would have been a lot better for you in the long run. You
Absolutely.
mentioned something that blew me away, and it was like you were worried that, dude, you were worried that if life didn't turn out the way that it did right then and there, that instead of a broken leg, maybe it was death, that no one would know what the real situation was. And I think that's very true too with people that unfortunately lose their battle to addiction and they pass away through overdose or accident or those kind of things. And we judge them, right? We're like, well, this guy was a heroin addict, so of course. But we don't know.
Yeah.
Like you said something so profound. Like just yesterday, we were at a funeral service for one of my athletes who passed away. And I was sitting there just like heartbroken and stuff. And people are always questioning the whys and the hows. And I can't believe this. And I'm thinking, you guys, none of us knew what was in his heart and his mind at that moment. None of us. So be careful before you start pointing the finger. So you said that so profound. Tell me about that.
So when I was running from the cops, trying to avoid a curfew, a ticket, not, it was like slightly running from the cops, whatever. I just didn't want to see the cops. I ran onto a bridge, just told my friends to pick me up on the bridge from a bonfire, and I seen the cops coming onto the bridge, and I was just like, oh, there's, one bridge going one way and then the other bridge going the other way, and there's a center divider. And I'm like, oh, once the cops come on the bridge, I'm just going to run across and hop over the center divider and run down the other side, because they can't make a U-turn on the bridge,
Yeah.
And it was at nighttime, and I ran across the bridge and I hopped over, not thinking, and then the bridges were split.
Oh, man.
The other bridge was way over there. It was optical illusion. So when I was falling, first thing that came to my mind was like, oh, like, I just got here and I'm already leaving. Like, I remembered like how coming here, that it was actually more scary coming into this reality than leaving, like, oh, it was the same feeling. Like, I knew I was about to die, and I was like, oh, this feeling is familiar. I remember like coming here. Like, I'm like, I just got here and I'm already leaving. And then I was just thinking like, oh, nobody's going to know the truth. No, people are going to think I jumped off this bridge and like killed myself. Like, nobody's going to know the truth, like that this was an accident. So that's what was like really burning.
And you think about that, and listeners, that's the thing, right? As things slow way down. And so not just a spiritual awakening to that degree of like how familiar that situation is, the coming and the leaving. I think it's profound that you had that, because it opened up my heart just listening to that, and then having the experience yesterday of like, you guys, we shouldn't be pointing fingers because none of us know. But what we can do is we can feel the loss and the love that we had for him. But I think it's profound that way because, as you know, the stigma for all this stuff is so intense. What crossed?
Wide net.
Yeah, it is. What crossed that in your heart to say, I could be doing this and I could advocate recovery through continuing to do all that I'm doing, but you chose a very unique path. You stepped into a world of like connecting with people to help them overcome extreme trauma, addictions, all this stuff. Why? Why not inspire them through who you are and what you've done versus the one-on-one stuff, that the changing of the hearts, individually? I'm curious how you made that leap.
Because I believe we're all connected, and no matter what, if I'm a professional skateboarder or whoever I think I am, and I believe, I know my purpose in life is to help people through my experiences. And how ironic this might sound is like, I got a birth chart for my birthday a long time ago. And I was just like, I remember being like on a good buzz and getting the present and being so bummed that like not bummed, but just like kind of like mocking, like you're gonna give me this envelope for my birthday, you know, like, oh, this is bullshit, you know.
Yeah,
But
I thought I meant more to you than that. Yeah.
yeah, but the person was asking me all these personal questions before, like where I was born and what hospital, my parents' names. Like, I didn't know they were actually getting my like blueprint, my coordinates to this earth. And I got my birth chart, and I remember reading it. And of course, I read it over a tall can, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it, and I was so blown away that I was like, it wasn't no horoscope shit. It was like, it was exactly my life and the things I was going through to the detail.
Wow.
Not no like, oh, I could see to the detail. I read it, and then it said like the purpose of you going through this so you can have the experience to help others. So from that point, I knew my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what I was supposed to do. I kept the party going for like another year or so, but that was burning in my head. And I'm like, if I keep doing this, I'm going to go out, I'm going to die like this. And this is all I'm going to be remembered for. And I'm going to miss my whole purpose. I'm like, and then that's when I, you know, just made the decision. I had to make the decision. And that's another thing too, with what I realized, like whatever you're going through, whether it's trying to get off drugs or alcohol, there's a physical dependency and everything, but really it is you who has to make the decision, nobody else. And then I did my necessary work. I studied for two years tough and steps and everything, got in the work. And then when I was ready, you know, I got with my partner with Healthy Life Recovery. We opened up Mental Health Center of San Diego, and I got something else big coming, another program that's going to be amazing. And hopefully we can get on the stay in touch and follow up with that when it comes to fruition. But yeah, man, I just want to connect with people, and on a level that where people don't feel like they can connect, because usually people who go through what we go through are in the streets and have a different mindset. We don't like authority. And I can relate with that. So
yeah. You know what? Hearing your story and everything you just said, I think listeners, I want you to pay particular attention, because each story is so unique, but like individualized. And I love what you're saying, because me growing up extreme poverty, moved all over the place, never started and finished a school the same place. You know, it was almost pre-planned, destined that I would have an addictive lifestyle, and did for many years. But that same shift of like, wait a second, I can do more. And you can use the history to literally, like we say, turn the mess into the message. And that same thing about connecting with people with like minds. And it's kind of an interesting paradigm, because your situation, you had some grounding, but you had so much so fast, and you had so much thrill and so much excitement. And so it doesn't matter what happens in history to get us to this position of making that decision. It is 100% up to us. Doesn't matter about backgrounds, anything. It's about, when are you going to just say, I'm done, close this chapter of life, open this new chapter, right? I love that you said that, because as cliche as it sounds, right? Making a decision to turn your life over, huge. The pivot point. Do you remember when you actually did that and you're like, I'm doing this, pivot to this, and then how far you've come, right? I mean, do you remember that time when you made that conscious decision to shift?
I'll never forget it. You know, I'll never forget it. It was October 16th, 2016. And it was my cousin liked to do cocaine. You know, that was his drug of choice. And he overdosed off, because fentanyl was in. It was right when fentanyl was coming in.
Man.
And he overdosed and he died. And I still continued to party and drink. And one night I was about to go out. I did a couple lines and had a couple beers and glass of wine. I was about to go out. I was feeling great. I was feeling the best I've ever felt. And I didn't even have that much, you know. I did a couple lines of cocaine. You know, had some beers and, you know, a glass of wine. I was ready, you know, get started, you know. And I remember the feeling I had. I felt so good. I'm like, whoa, I can like float away right now. That sounds so stupid, but like, I was like, whoa, I'm like, I can like float away right now. Like I can be done and all good. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I looked in the mirror and I'm like, if I keep doing this, I'm going to die like this. And this is all I'm going to be remembered for. And the ego, like, so my ego worked against me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm not going out like this. I'm like, I refuse to. I'm like, I am not even going to risk. I'm not going out like this. I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, God, just let me get through this night and I'm done.
Yeah.
I got through that night, and that sounds stupid, but
No.
I really got through that night. And
Yeah.
the next day I was finished. I went through the couple days of, shakes, waking up, not went through a long time, a couple months of not being able to sleep, right. I was taking like melatonin, and at first what kept me in the house and away from people was like TV shows. I just like found shows I like and binge watch like TV shows at night. And I'd be like, oh, okay, it's like 1 a.m. Okay, people aren't partying no more. Whatever. I missed the
start time.
Opening,
you missed the start time. Now you're like, well, okay, I guess that's done. I love that. I did the same thing, man. My friends, I joke, my friends were the friends on TV, Monica, Chandler, Ross, all those guys. I just watched Friends, man. I didn't have any of my own, so I watched them and they became my friends. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the funniest thing, man. But that's what you have to do to really change the way. I mean, you didn't just take a foot out, you jumped out completely. And we still go through those, man, I wonder what, I wonder who, I wonder if, but then you're like, no, I'm not going back there. After a while, how was it for you? Not to be like super easy, but it became more mainstream for you, right? Like just the consistency of making the next best choice came into making good decisions. Is that how you found it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like, first of all, it was like, one big thing is like, I knew the people, everybody knows the people that are not the best for them in their life, and people they used to run with. And I just had to completely cut that off. And it was painful because I would get text messages and stuff, and I just ignored them like completely. It was just done. Like I couldn't even, I was just like done, and there's just a few people who were like 2 people who were like, I knew that were really bad for me, but who I liked, and I liked them, but I just no conversation. Like, hey, I'm doing this now. Like, that ain't gonna work. I knew the best manipulators in the world, like,
seriously.
So I just had to cut it out and just be like, I was just done. I couldn't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out no more. I tried that, like, so
literally you had to pick which team
hard.
you were playing for, right? You had to pick which team. You're like, either I can be team addict or I can be team sober. I can't play both sides of this. I've got to pick a team. That's profound.
It's just like Star Wars, there's power on the dark side, and but the real power is on the other side. And it's like, it's not like you have to change who you are. You could just use your abilities for the better, and just being on that side, things happen in a good way so fast too. Things get good fast, and they might not be good, but
I totally understand.
But that's life. It's learning how to live life on life's terms, and realizing like nothing's perfect. Like, things are going to happen, and having the tools to be able to work through your problems, take your inventory, realize what's going on in your head, what makes you move, what makes you make decisions, and like being able to just like, what, sometimes the best things to do are nothing at all.
Hands down, spot on. So I love it. I'm curious because of who you are, the things you've accomplished, the things you've done some amazing things in your professional sporting career. How much does that compare to that one person who graduates your program? I'll get emotional. Who graduates your program, walks up to you and looks you in the eyes and says, Brandon, you saved my life. It was, I mean, don't get me wrong. Kids, these little people, they like see you up there on the stage of life, and they're like, look at what he can do. And you inspire them. But how does that compare to that one person that walks up to you and looks you in the eyes and say, you helped save my life? How do you compare those two things, brother?
It's crazy you say that, because I get that, and I'm just like, I don't know what to say to that. I just know my feeling, and I'm just like, wow. We are all capable of saving lives, and that's an amazing
Here,
thing.
here.
And so when someone validates myself with that, it's, I don't like,
It's hard,
I
isn't
mean,
it? It's hard to bring on because you're like, when you're doing something like you're performing, you're skating, you're doing these things, it's obvious why people are inspired by you. But that, for us in recovery, for those people that have found sobriety and they start giving back, that's one of the hardest things for us to conceptualize, isn't it? Like, wait a minute, really? Like I did? Because to us, it feels like just these interactions, but to these people, they're like, man, you changed me. You helped change me. And we don't
mhm.
take, obviously, we don't take credit for it, but when they give us something like that, we don't push it back. Like, oh, well, yeah, no, no, don't worry about it. It's more like, wow, thank you, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, that's an upper limiting thing. If someone gives you a compliment and, take that like, oh, no, like that's upper limiting, saying like, oh, no, I'm not. No, that's
Yeah.
in life. And what I realize is like what you're doing, the decisions you make and everything, it's either empowering or it's disempowering.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. So when people get that, I take it and I really appreciate it. And it makes me know I'm doing the right thing. And that's
Jeez,
what,
brother.
one of the things that helps me keep going. And I just, and I love it, man. I love everybody. I
I
love
can
the
hear it in
connection.
your voice. I can totally hear it. That's why I said I love it when I find guys like you that have the same understanding of how movement helps create like all these new pathways to like new learning and sobriety. Sitting around a group just talking about feelings, I've done that as a therapist for years and years. But when I started the team and got them moving, I got so much more mileage out of them. They felt
Mhm.
more safe. They felt more open. All these things. How important is moving, to recovery versus just sitting idle and hoping that something that's said
It's
sticks?
simple as this. Like I can get into the healthy release of endorphins for the brain and everything, but no, it's as simple as this. Just know that movement is medicine.
Yes. I've never heard it said that way. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've never even thought about that. It's genius. It is. You're spot
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, movement is medicine. Get to moving. You're in your head, do some push-ups, whatever. Start
Mhm.
breathing, go for a walk, start running, go run
Mhm.
around the block 10 times, whatever you got to do,
Yeah.
like movement is medicine. Just make moves.
I love it, man. Early on in the team, I would say to my athletes, they'd be like, Coach, I'm having a real hard time. I'm wanting to go out and drink and want to go use. I'm like, go ahead, man. But before you go give me the 5 mile, go give me the 5K, 3 miles, right? Go give me a 5K, shoot me your times. I will give you the blessing to go out and drink, go use. Never has someone ever gone out and drank or used after they've done their 5K.
No,
Uh,
absolutely. Not.
Case in point, right?
Yeah, exactly. I
So,
tell people too in San Diego, some might not be next to some water and they'd be like, and they're like, oh, just wanting a head change. I can tell they're just like thinking about it. I'm like, hey, you need if you want to if you want a real head change, go jump in that water,
yeah.
you know?
Instantly, it'll change your perception right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, go
Oh,
jump in the water, you know?
I love it, brother. This is the coolest thing. I could talk to you for hours. The stuff goes by so fast. But brother, I'm curious. What do you tell the person who's coming out of a situation similar to yours, where now they're getting some freedom, that security, that maximum security that they reached in prison? They're realizing that's not where I want to be. I want the freedom. I want job freedom. I want financial freedom. I want life freedom. What do you tell that person that's scared of embracing that because they're so stuck in that comfort zone of this is how it's always been? What do you tell that person that helps motivate them to see the other side?
I would tell them, you know, it's not easy and it is scary, but nothing good comes easy. Like
Yes.
anything worth having never comes easy. And if it does, then something's not right.
Yeah.
Because nothing is easy, and you gotta if you don't know how to plan, you gotta stick to the plan. If you don't have a plan, you need to get one or get with someone to help you get one.
Yeah,
And
man.
it's basically knowing what you want. I know a lot of people, they're just like, I don't know what I want. I just know this and that. I would
Mhm.
tell people, get a mentor. And if you have like ego in place and you're like, oh, I'm grown, I don't need, everybody in this world needs help. There's nothing in this world you can do alone. I didn't get to where I'm at and at this level by myself. Like you need help. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Spot on.
You know, look at the people who you want to be or who you want to be like or who have it together and ask questions. Anything in this world has been done off of the question, how can I?
Love it.
You need to ask yourself, you know, not limiting beliefs, like ask yourself empowering beliefs, like not, I can't, like, what if I can't do this or whatever? No, you need to think like, how can I do this? What do I need to do this? Who do I need to talk to do this? What did this person do to do that? It's all in the questions, and it's all, and as soon as you ask the right questions, you can find the right answer.
I love it. What you just said, and listeners, you've heard this before, but I love what Brandon just said. You can be a victim and ask I can't, versus the agent of your sobriety, the agent of your recovery, which is, how can I? He just gave you one of the most amazing principles that if you apply that very first one, it'll catalyst you into a mindset change, right, Brandon?
Yes. And then I'll give you simple question right now. You know, people get into the thing. I've done so many bad stuff. I've hurt so many people. I've did this and that. And they're just like, feel so low and feel like a piece of shit. It's a simple question. How could I turn my liabilities into assets?
Boom. Yeah, seriously. And it's not as challenging as you think, but you've got to get over that first hump of even asking yourself that very honest question. I'm with you, man. Spot on.
And I'll tell you the answer. Be of service. Help somebody else.
There you go.
Ask what you can do, what you can do to help. How could I help?
See, and isn't it cool that that you, me, and the people that are in that position, we capitalize on that by having it become part of who we are now. That's what you're doing. You are living proof that when you do that, look at what you can become. Because not only were you serving people through like being like a professional athlete, you are serving people now even more with that change of heart, that change of life. You're spot on. I mean, people pay us to like listen to them and talk to them and help them overcome some of the adversity. It's the funniest job when you think about it. It's like, wow, look at this. We found a little niche. Brandon, you are a rock star, man. I'm like blown away by what you're doing. And Marissa and I have been owners of a treatment center before, and we know how challenging that is. We left the industry because we didn't like it, but it sounds like you're doing it right. The name of your facility is it's super impactful because it gives you exactly what it is: healthy living. It's not like serenity or like, adversity over, it's like the real thing. It's living healthy. So how do we find you? Give us some social medias, give us some stuff, because there'll be people that will look for help. What you got out there?
I would say contact me personally. My number 619-796-9611.
Perfect.
You can check out us on our website, healthyliferecovery.com. For mental health, dual diagnosis, our mental health facility, mhcsandiego.com. My Instagram is bturner_. My name is Brandon Turner, and I'm here to be of service. How could I help?
I know it's true, listeners, because look, we messaged him and here we are. We're talking. So he's not kidding when he says that. He can help get you to your destination. Brandon, this is a relationship with Team Addict Athlete and your skating group and stuff that I want to make sure that we don't lose, man. I want to make sure that our connections stay alive, because there's some cool things I think that these organizations can do together to help change the perception on what addiction is.
Let's do it, man. And please shoot me a text, and let's stay in contact, and just shoot me the information, and I'd love to stay in contact. I love what you're doing. Addict to Athlete, thank you so much. And everyone who listened to this, want to let you know, I don't know you, but I love you. You can do this. Anyone who's doing the work and everything, keep doing it. And yes, I just love this community, and we're all connected. We're all one. I'm no better than you. vice versa, and we can all do this together, and that's what it takes.
Hear, hear. Listeners, you've been well fed. I want to thank all of you for listening, downloading, and sharing this podcast. Share this podcast, especially with anyone that feels like they are stuck and can't do it, because this is one of those ones that will show them that making a decision can change your life. Thank you, Radio Ronin and the Radio Ronin Network, for all you do for Team Addict Athlete. Until next time, please turn that mess into a message.